Elias stood at the edge of the obsidian cliff, his fingers locked around the shard. It pulsed against his palm, a rhythmic, hot vibration that fought the biting frost of the peak. Below, the sea of clouds churned in violent violet hues, roiling like a bruised ocean. He checked the sky. The celestial alignment was already fraying at the edges. The light was thinning. He had exactly 3 minutes. The shard flared brighter, a surge of energy that made the surrounding glass crunch under his feet. He took a breath, feeling the thin, frigid air bite into his lungs. The weight of the mission sat heavy in his chest, far denser than the stone beneath him. To his left, a spire of rock sheared off and tumbled into the abyss, vanishing without a sound. Time was not just running out, it was collapsing. Elias shifted his weight, toes gripping the sharp, frozen ledge. He looked up at the floating ruins of the Zenith Temple, hanging like a ghost in the upper atmosphere. He did not look down again. He stepped forward, pushing off the cliffside and into the empty, waiting void. The expected fall never came. Instead, the world twisted. Gravity snapped, yanking him upward with violent force. Elias shot into the open sky, the obsidian cliff dropping away until it was nothing more than a jagged speck below. Wind roared past his ears, tearing at his skin. He focused on the Zenith Temple, Here Temple, its broken arches growing larger with every second of his rapid ascent. Then, the air grew thick. The temperature plummeted. A shape tore itself away from the floating stone ruins. It was a sentinel, a massive swirling shadow that solidified as it descended to meet him. It did not speak. It did not move like a living thing. It raised a blade forged from solidified silence, the edge absorbing the dim light of the alignment. Elias braced himself, his trajectory taking him directly into the path of the phantom weapon. The sentinel hovered, an immovable wall between him and the temple, its presence radiating a cold that made his very marrow ache. They were locked in the center of the sky, suspended between the world he left and the altar he had to reach. He adjusted his grip on the shard, watching the blade of silence swing into a defensive arc. Elias flicked his wrist. The shard erupted, emitting a high-pitched hum that tore through the silence. The air shattered into ripples of liquid gold, a blinding wave of force that slammed into the sentinel. The shadow form buckled instantly. Its dark, armored shell vaporized into harmless mist, leaving only empty air where the threat had stood a heartbeat before. Elias did not wait to watch it dissipate. He kicked off a floating slab of masonry and sprinted across the crumbling debris. The ruins groaned under his weight, tilting precariously as he leaped from one broken pillar to the next. His breath came in ragged gasps, forming crystalline patterns in the freezing, thin air that drifted away like falling snow. Each step required absolute precision. A single miscalculation meant an eternal fall into the churning violet clouds below. He pushed his body to its limit, ignoring the ache in his lungs and the biting cold that seeped into his skin. Ahead, the altar emerged from the wreckage, a jagged, white marble pedestal standing firm against the chaos. Boots skidded, platform vibrated, celestial shift. The sky ripped open above him. It was not a cloud shift. The horizon fractured like glass, revealing the clockwork gears of the universe turning in slow, heavy rhythm. Elias did not hesitate. He lunged for the center of the marble altar and jammed the glowing shard into the waiting socket. The temple shuddered violently. Beneath his feet, massive stone rings began to rotate, their surfaces scraping against each other with a sound like grinding mountains. The floor buckled. Elias threw his weight against the pedestal to stay upright as the entire structure locked into a new alignment. With a sound like a thunderclap, a pillar of white fire erupted from the altar. It tore through the atmosphere, piercing the violet clouds and reaching straight into the void above. The light was absolute. It swept across the ruins, consuming the lingering shadows and searing the darkness from the stone. The violent churning of the sky slowed, then halted. The temple stopped its groaning, settling into a sudden, rigid stillness. The ground beneath him stopped vibrating, firm and solid for the first time in an eternity. The white fire continued to roar, a beacon of pure energy stabilizing the world as the chaotic violet hue began to fade from the atmosphere. The violent violet haze thinned, then vanished entirely, peeled away by the intensity of the light. In its place, the sky opened into a vast, clear expanse of deep indigo, already shifting toward the soft, pale blue of morning. Elias stood for a moment, his chest heaving, before his legs finally gave way. He collapsed against the base of the pedestal, his hands trembling as the adrenaline bled out of him. The shard was gone, fully absorbed into the stone. Silence settled over the ruins, heavier and more profound than before. He waited until his breath returned, pushing himself upright, with a steadying hand against the cold marble. He walked to the edge of the platform and looked down. The world below was no longer shrouded in gray or violet. It was bathed in the soft, rhythmic, golden pulse of a restored sun. The land below stirred. Elias turned and began the long descent down the temple steps. He left the silent stone giants behind him, moving with a slower, measured gait. He reached the bottom just as the first true rays of dawn crested the horizon, casting long, warm shadows across the waking earth. His task was finished. The cycle had begun again.